In December 1948, a man's body was discovered on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. He was impeccably dressed in a suit with polished shoes. Authorities initially suspected heart failure or poisoning as the cause of death, but no traces of poison were found during the autopsy. The man had no wallet or identification on him. The tags from his clothing had been removed. Even his fingerprints were unidentifiable. Authorities published a photograph of the body in newspapers, but no one recognized him. 4 months later, detectives found a hidden pocket sewn into the man's trousers. It contained a rolled-up piece of paper from a rare book called the Rubaiyat. The paper had the words Tamim Shud, meaning it has ended. Despite extensive efforts to locate the exact book, the man, now known as the Somerton Man, was buried without identification. A cast was made of his face, and he was embalmed for preservation. 8 months later, a man came forward to the police station. He claimed that shortly after the body was discovered, he found a copy of the Rubaiyat in the back of his car, which he often parked near Somerton Beach. Initially dismissing it, he later read about the search in a newspaper article and realized the torn final page of the book matched the piece of paper found on the Somerton Man. Inside the book, there was a phone number and a strange code. The phone number led authorities to a woman named Jessica Thompson, who lived nearby. During her interview, she was evasive and even pretended to faint upon seeing the bust of the Somerton Man, although she denied knowing him. However, she admitted to selling the book to a man named Alfred Boxall. Surprisingly, Alfred Boxall was alive at the time and still possessed the copy of the Rubaiyat that Jessica had sold him. The code found in the book remained indecipherable. It remains unsolved to this very day. According to Kate Thompson, Jessica Thompson's daughter, her mother was the woman interviewed by the police. Kate mentioned that her mother had confessed to lying to them and that Jessica actually knew the identity of the Somerton Man. She hinted that his identity was known by individuals with a higher level of authority than the police force. Kate speculated that both her mother and the Somerton Man might have been spies. She pointed out that Jessica Thompson taught English to migrants, had an interest in communism, and could speak Russian. Kate could not disclose where her mother acquired these language skills or the reasons for having them. At approximately 8 a.m. on July 2, 1951, Pansy Carpenter, Mary Reeser's landlady, arrived at Reeser's apartment in St. Petersburg, Florida, with a telegram. When she tried the door, she noticed that the metal doorknob was unusually warm, so she called the police. Among the remnants of a chair in which she had been sitting, Reeser's remains, mostly ashes, were discovered. What remained of Reeser, also known as the Cinder Lady, included part of her left foot wearing a slipper, her backbone, and her skull. Plastic household objects near the fire had softened and lost their shape. The St. Petersburg police chief sent a box of evidence from the scene to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover on July 7, 1951. The box contained glass fragments, small objects believed to be teeth, a section of carpet, and the surviving shoe. Police chief requested any information or theories explaining the extensive destruction of the human body while leaving minimal damage to the structure and furniture in the room. The FBI eventually concluded that Reeser had been incinerated by the Wick effect. Considering her use of sleeping pills, they theorized that she had fallen unconscious while smoking, igniting her night clothes. The FBI's report stated that once the body started burning, the fat and other flammable substances provided fuel for the fire, resulting in varying degrees of destruction. They suggested that complete combustion of the body could occur. Reeser's daughter-in-law explained to a local paper that the cigarette had dropped onto her lap and her body fat served as fuel for the fire. The floor was made of cement, and there was no combustible material nearby. Circleville, Ohio, a small town 25 miles south of Columbus, rarely attracted outside attention. However, in 1976, a series of alarming letters started to arrive. The first recipient was Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver. The letter revealed that the writer knew about her affair with the school superintendent and warned her to end it immediately. Along with allegations of the affair, the letter contained a sinister threat, stating that the writer knew where Mary lived, had been observing her house, and was aware she had children. Postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, the letter lacked a return address and signature, leaving the sender's identity a mystery. A week later, Mary received another letter with a similar tone. She kept the letters to herself until her husband also received one. The husband, Ron, was immediately startled. The second letter warned him that his life was in danger if he didn't take action to stop the affair. The news of the alleged affair quickly spread through Circleville. Subsequent letters became even more threatening, demanding Ron to make Mary confess the truth and inform the school board. If he failed to comply, the writer threatened to expose the affair through various means, including CB radios, posters, signs, and billboards. Mary and Ron confided in 3 individuals: Ron's sister, her husband Paul, and Paul's sister. They suspected the identity of the letter writer and devised a plan to scare the person off. They sent a few letters stating that they knew the writer's identity without resorting to violence. For a while, the plan seemed to work. The threatening letters ceased. On August 19, 1977, Ron received a phone call that seemed to confirm his suspicions about the writer's identity. He decided to confront the person and left his home. Tragically, he lost control of his vehicle, crashed into a tree, and died. Strangely, his gun had been fired once. There was no explanation for when or at whom the shot was fired. The police ruled Ron's death an accident but faced accusations of a cover-up from anonymous letters sent to Circleville residents. Ron's brother-in-law, Paul, claimed that the sheriff had changed his initial stance on foul play. Despite the sheriff's changing statements and the discovery of alcohol in Ron's blood, which surprised those who knew him as a moderate drinker, the investigation concluded Ron's death was accidental. The threatening letters persisted even after Ron's death. Mary and the superintendent eventually admitted to their relationship, asserting that it began after the letters were sent. Mary continued her job as a school bus driver, but in 1983, the letter writer escalated their harassment. The writer began placing signs along Mary's bus route, specifically targeting Mary's daughter. One day, when Mary removed a sign, she discovered a booby trap behind it, a small pistol rigged to fire upon removal. The weapon had its serial number partially erased. However, forensic tests revealed it belonged to Paul, Mary's brother-in-law. Paul denied involvement, claiming he hadn't seen the gun in a long time and didn't know when it had went missing. He maintained his innocence regarding the letters. Nevertheless, he underwent a handwriting test, which experts later criticized for its flawed methodology. In 1983, Paul stood trial for the attempted murder of Mary Gillespie. While not charged with writing the threatening letters, they served as crucial evidence against him. A handwriting expert testified that the writing on the letters, envelopes, and postcards matched Paul's style. Despite having a solid alibi for the day the booby trap was discovered, Paul decided not to testify in his own defense. He was found guilty of attempted murder, a verdict that shocked him. While in prison, Paul continued to receive letters, postmarked from Columbus, even though he was incarcerated in Lima, Ohio. The volume of letters prompted the prison warden to investigate, eventually concluding that Paul could not be responsible for them. After serving 10 years, Paul was granted parole in 1994, maintaining his innocence to this very day.